Wow. Okay. I am so turned on by the podcast that I just did with Willow and Leah. I'm so grateful for these two beautiful beings in the world and everything that they're choosing and everything that they be. So please enjoy this podcast. And I also wanted to invite you to a few things. In the show notes, all these details will be there. But number one is they have a free summit, which I'm going to sign up for because I'm all for learning more about your sexualness, my body, sex, what to do, what else is possible, all of that sort of thing. And would you like to spend Valentine's Day with me? I would like to invite you to spend Valentine's Day with me. I have a class coming up. It's Relationships and Different. It's live in Annecy, France, because it's during my Choice for Possibilities class. But come spend Valentine's Day with me. Why not? It's like I find it's a time of year that so many people go into judgment of what they're choosing or not choosing or what could be changing, etc. Now, looking at what can change is great, but receive change from choice, not from judgment. Okay, so come spend Valentine's Day with me. And that's not all. Do you have a pack of the intimate play cards? Because if you don't, maybe now is the time for you to buy yourself, your partner, your kids, anyone, a pack of the intimate play cards. So we will have these, also the link where you can purchase them. Now, also, I wrote a book a long time ago called Relationship. Are you sure you want one? And I wrote that with my ex, Brendan Watt. As we split up, we launched the book, which gave our PR agent a little bit of a heart attack. But it's got all the access consciousness tools that we used in order to create our relationship. And, our relationship went for 8 years. It probably should have gone for about 5. And, we continued for the extra 3 years, which how many of you are continuing in a relationship where it's over? Okay. It's like, what if we could look at all of these different energies and all of these different things that show up from choice, not from judgment? Not from creating a limitation, because this is your life. What are you choosing? Are you enjoying it? Okay. So please enjoy this podcast and don't forget to look at the show notes, and all of the things that I've mentioned will be in there. And hopefully you'll be coming to spend Valentine's Day with me. Thanks. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Choice, Change, and Action podcast. So you're with me, your host, and I have two special guests on here today. I'm actually very excited about some of the topics and questions that I want to ask them. I was recently on a podcast with them, and I went, yeah, this is a good one for me as well. So welcome, Leah and Willow.
Thank you, Simone. So good to be here. We just loved having you on our podcast. So we are stoked to be here and share with your audience.
Cool. Thank you so much. And so it's called Sex Reimagined is your website, and I was reading up about the different things that you guys have got going on, and I want to go right back to the beginning. Okay, so you've got written on there that you are Tao and Tantric experts. First of all, can you tell me or tell the listeners what is a Tao and Tantric expert?
Yeah, so Taoism, or Tao, or sometimes spelled Dao.
How do you pronounce it?
Taoism.
Tao. Okay, and I'm going Tao.
Yeah, the Tao.
The Tao.
The Tao. Okay.
The Tao is the way. That's what they say. And so Taoism is sort of like kind of similar to Buddhism, except it's, I would say, more of a philosophy and a way of life, although it's an Asian philosophy towards spirituality. And so Taoism is really, they say the Tao is the way, but what does that mean? What is the way? The way is the way of nature. So we look to nature to see expansion and contraction in every single thing. And we look at ourselves as not just human beings, but as earthlings. We are of the earth, and we have the same expansions and contractions that the earth has. Every breath we take, every cycle we move through, every day we move through, our life cycle, our year cycle, so on and so forth. And so Taoism is living in alignment with expansion and contraction, yang and yin energy. When we bring that into sexuality, we are really weaving in this highly, highly potent creative life force energy that we can utilize to create more health, longevity, vitality, libido levels, desire levels, arousal levels. We can expand a lot further when we're living in harmony with the way. And so we use Taoist sexual practices to really create a deeper sense of connection within, but also a stronger sense of vitality, longevity, and health. With Tantra, it's very similar. They're very similar, but the tantric practice, I would say there's sort of two legs to Tantra. There's the white Tantra and the red Tantra, and Leah can expand on this in a moment. But the red tantric practice is more about coming together, that union within. So I often will think of like the Taoist practices as white tantric practice, where you're really cultivating your own jing qi or sexual energy or essence. And then when we bring it together into a red tantric practice, union with other, then it can come into formation in all different ways, from full-on sexual union to eye gazing with a friend in the park. So there's definitely different levels and layers. And Leah is really our tantric expert, so I'll let her kind of expound, but she knows all the Taoist stuff too. We both know both sides at this point.
Well, I love that. That's a great introduction. So, Leah, what else can you add to that with it being on the tantric side of things?
Yeah, the way I sort of describe what Tantra is to this is an ancient mystery school dating back thousands of years. And so, how do I make sense for it to be like modern people? I would consider Tantra as being the great beautifier of sex. It's what brings beauty to intimacy because it has ritual and you're paying attention to energy and you're working with amplifying the love that you're passing on either just to your own body or to somebody else's body. So as Willow mentioned, there are two limbs of the Tantra exploration. One is white Tantra, which is the solo practice. If you think of if you're a musician and you're like super good at playing guitar, but sometimes you want to play in the band, well, you got to practice on your own to be worthy of being good enough to play with the band. And so you want to think of your white Tantra practice as that's your solo practice. And you're doing things like maybe you're practicing yoga or qigong, you're meditating, and those meditations have levels of different levels of advancement, right? Some people, they meditate on sacred geometry or they practice chanting and they're waking up the chakras. And, they're doing these things to expand their ability to run energy safely in their body so they can run more current. Because when they go to play with the band, which is like red Tantra, they want to be able to hold all that current and then transfer those musical notes into someone else's body to bring even more ecstasy to somebody else. So it's like you're working on being a good instrument so that when you make love, you are creating high octave levels of lovemaking. So a lot of these Tantra principles have a lot to do with understanding energy, how to run energy, how to transfer energy to someone else's body so that you're helping them expand their arousal thresholds while also perfecting your own arousal thresholds. And when it comes to the difference of penis owners and vulva owners, some of our practices for what we want to cultivate vary. I'll give you an example. There are lots of men who wish that they could last longer when they're having sex. Oftentimes they feel like they ejaculate too soon, way sooner than they would prefer, or way sooner than what their partner would prefer. And so Tantra has lots of practical skill sets, muscular contractions, breathing techniques, pressure point release work that can train someone's body. Look, you can have as much control as you want. Try these techniques, get better at them so that you can achieve the result that you want. When it comes to vulva owners, there are different practices. Some vulva owners have a hard time reaching climax at all. So what are the tantric techniques that support her nervous system and letting go so that the pleasure can be more magnetic to her system? That's just, kind of a tangent, but it hopefully paints a little bit of a picture of Tantra.
Yeah, no, there's there's so much in this, and I'm so grateful because access consciousness is like mean, that's what I facilitate classes all over the world. But essentially so much of it is about energy and it's about choice, right? So, as you know, you choosing is the big thing. And I would say, like in the last 6 years, I've been seeing, I call him my lover because we're not choosing to be in, relationship, live with anyone, etc., all that sort of stuff. He's definitely my lover. He's like one of my best mates, etc. But every time like even the other day, I said, I need to go lie in my backyard. I just need some nature. And I live across the road from the beach. So you could hear the ocean and there's a breeze and the trees moving. And then we were lying in the grass and just being there. And then it started to rain. And I was like, can we pretend it's not raining for a second? Because I really required this. I was having a bit of an interesting day. Let's put it that way. And just being there. And then I always notice when we engage, like I love the way you talked about that with the Tao, like the way. And because I always talk about, for me, we are a part of the ecosystem. Like we're not just observers, we are a part of this ecosystem. And how do we be with the earth? And how do we engage with the earth and those energies and then take that into our bodies and be that with ourselves and be that with others? So I love the way you guys spoke about this. It's brilliant. And for me, it's like, one of the main things I think is taking away judgment, because judgment has become so detrimental, especially with sex. Like, and over the years, and I see people judge themselves, they judge others, everything you just mentioned. It's like, a man will judge themselves for ejaculating too quickly. And it's like, or a woman will judge that. So I see a lot of women, I've spoken to a lot of women. Let's talk about this for a second. That they may find it harder to have an orgasm or longer, and then they go to that I should have an orgasm quicker because my partner is putting so much attention or blah blah blah, whereas sometimes it for me it takes a while, but man, is it good when it comes. But I see that like women will do that thing over the years and historically of pretending they had an orgasm, which personally I think is not a really kind thing to do to your partner either. If you're pretending you're having an orgasm, it's like, why not have a conversation about it and go, okay, what could we choose, or what works for me, what feels good, etc. So I'd love you to talk about women's orgasms and what they can have a look at and what sort of things that they could choose to start the conversation, especially if like you have an orgasm by masturbating, you have an orgasm by somebody else, either going down on you or, using toys or fingers, etc. And then the difference of having an orgasm, which I would find the hardest, is having an orgasm during copulation.
Mm-hmm.
Can you sort of talk about that or expand on that and what women should start as a conversation, etc., or where they're at?
Yeah, like how to have a conversation with their partner if they're faking orgasms. Yeah. I personally have never faked an orgasm, so I don't know if I'm the best person to answer this question, but
I have.
Yeah,
I have too.
Yeah,
I have too, but I didn't because I felt bad, and it's just a terrible thing. I did it because I was like, oh, I want this person to feel good about what they're doing, and I just can't get there right now. Right.
I think a lot of women do it for that reason. Then I think a lot of women also do it just because they want to be done with whatever is going on sexually. They're just,
they're ready to get it over with.
There's a couple of, different reasons. But what I would say is like, the people who are having the best sex are the ones who are talking about it. So having the conversation is really, really vital and important, and having it outside of the bedroom, because it's such a sensitive place of like, oh, fuck, I'm doing it wrong. I'm feeling criticized. It's so easy for everyone to get wounded in that vulnerable place. And so having the conversation, when you're out walking in nature or when you're having dinner or some other time when you're not in the throes of it, I feel like is really important. And then women really understanding how in the moment to communicate with their partner, because that's a real art form.
Yeah.
So, it's like, it's like, it can be, it's something like, I love what you're doing, and I really want to be able to feel it even more. I think if you slow down like half the pace of what you're at now, I'll be able to feel it even more. And so then they can like, and then the partner gets that physical response. Oh my God, she did feel it more when I slowed down. Okay, cool. And then it's like, oh, I love that. Feels really good. I can feel it more now. But maybe if you go a little to the left or lighten up your pressure, this, half to what you have right now, those kind of cues can really be like super helpful in the moment when you're in the throes of sexuality. And then really for women to understand their own anatomy of arousal, there is a whole world in your vulva that you never learned about, and so this is one of the things that probably all three of us really teach it to our female participants and students. It's like understanding the orgasmic nerve pathways that run from the clitoris to the brain, that run from the G-spot to the brain, from the anus to the brain, and from the cervix to the brain, and knowing that there's all these different ways and styles to have orgasm. It's gonna not only change your experience in the bedroom, but it's also going to give you more to talk about conversationally when you understand and your own anatomy and how it works and how it lights up. For me, nipples, you got to start with the nipples, and you got to start with the palm of your hand. You got to start with this diffuse kind of energy and touch to light me up. You can't just be going straight in with fingertips to the clitoral head. Like
that's like you're cracking a safe.
Yeah, exactly.
3 to the left, 4 to the right, pull.
No. Yeah. And we're all different. And I would notice that I'm different depending on the day. Like sometimes my nipples will be really sensitive, and the next day they might not be.
Yeah.
It's like it changes all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. I would add that like we don't normalize female sexuality and female desire, which is why we don't know what turns us on. We are sort of conditioned to think men are the ones that want sex, so they're the ones who have to figure out how to do it. And what that does is it lets us off the hook from a lot of self-exploration. And then we've got, shame and guilt around, is it okay to self-explore? And so we got to kind of from a cultural level, kind of shift how we're thinking about things, because like 80% of women have never had an orgasm due to penetration. Well, the truth is every single woman can have an orgasm due to penetration, but we have to understand how our arousal works. And the cool thing is we actually have all the same parts as penis owners. Ours is just organized differently. And that's really exciting. So I want you to imagine a lovely, beautiful, well-aroused, in Tantra, we call it a lingam or a vajra, which is the male genitals. And now imagine that every woman listening also has one. But again, hers is organized differently. So we have to understand that we have these pockets of erectile tissue that for most of us, we just know about the head of the clitoris. Well, there's so much more. We've got vestibular bulbs. We've got clitoral legs. We've got a hood and a shaft. We've got a G-spot and the perineum sponge. These are all pockets of incredible, exciting, juicy, blood-filled tissue.
Don't forget the Bartholin glands.
Oh, well, that's not erectile tissue, but that is a sexy zone that helps secrete natural lubrication. So the thing that's so sad is that this is research that is finally coming into the mainstream media just in the last 10 years. And you have to really be a sex geek to have heard about it. Doctors, your regular doctor doesn't even know about female erectile tissue. So we've got a long way to go. And part of that is because there hasn't been enough financial research towards female reproductive health, which is why women have been shortchanged for a while. So we have to just acknowledge that we're all really innocent for whatever orgasms we have faked, because there weren't better solutions. And when it's kind of embarrassing to talk about things when you feel like you're maybe sexually dysfunctional, these conversations are fraught with fear. And so if we can just kind of normalize it and go, man, we all have experiences where we don't feel successful at sex. And one of the things that I like people to think about is, for most women especially, we know what we don't want, but we don't always know what we do want. So it's like, oh, I don't like that. Oh, I don't like that. Oh, I don't like that, And then, but we don't know what to say. Do this instead. So this is the difference between understanding your brakes and your accelerators. We want to start putting more attention, curiosity, excitement, the feeling of adventure, that this is your birthright. You get to be more turned on. There's so much turn on available for you. We just got to figure out your map, and that's exciting. So back to your point around criticism and judgment, the quickest hack when you notice you're feeling critical of yourself or you're feeling critical of your partner is to get curious, because curiosity will suffocate that judgment, and now you have a place to jump from.
Yeah. And I also think like the giving your partner, like your lover, permission to ask for something or to talk about something. Because I find too, over the years, like, I mean, I'm in my 50s now, and man, I wish I knew now what I knew in my 20s, because I definitely
Me too.
having way better sex now than I did in my 20s, that's for sure. And it was a lot of proving and judgment and like, whatever. But now it's way better, right? And how does it get any better than this? Like, what else is possible with it as well? But the one thing I'll notice too, over the years and all the different lovers that I've had, is men don't give you much feedback unless you really ask, and ask in a way that is totally giving them permission to be that vulnerable, to sort of say what they would like to do or not do, etc. Or with a blowjob, like what's working, what's not working. And I've noticed that it's different sensitivity in men is very frequent. So it's like having that conversation and that vulnerability to say, hey, what is it that, one of the questions I would use is, what is it that you would like me to do that I have not yet done?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
So that it can open up something, because and there's always something else to explore, is my point of view. Wow.
I remember men would always say, so what's your fantasy? And I never knew the answer to that question. It was almost like, could you ask me instead, what turns you on? Because I didn't really think in pictures. I didn't think in fantasies. And it wasn't until later in life that I realized, what they were asking for is, Leah, what's your map? How can I pleasure you? How can I build your arousal? What works for you? What turns you on? And so sometimes you also have to sort of translate what your partner's asking for to go, they want to win with you.
Yes.
So when they're asking you questions, like, it's because they really want to know. And it took me a while to go, well, wait a minute. I really want to know too. What is my answer? What does turn me on? If I could hand somebody the GPS coordinates to give me orgasms, what would I tell them? And that became a real interesting quest, because now I really know. I can tell you, when you lay me down like this and you start to massage the back of my thighs and you squeeze my butt up and you pull it apart and I can feel your eyes on me, like there's something that happens that is there's a building there, and then you go away, you get close to the dirty bits, but then you touch somewhere else. And then you come back and you get closer to build anticipation for me. It is so empowering to find language for what you desire.
It is, and I think it changes all the time. I know it does for me. Like what you just described, is turning my body on, and I'm like, yeah, I'll have that. Like that sounds amazing, and I can, as you walked through that, I'm like, yeah, because things being pulled apart and played with and all of that, and then they're taken away. But then there's sometimes that I'm just like, have that energy of like, fuck me, like,
yes,
like, like
take me right now.
Yes. And I want to actually point out one thing that I know, and I think the more we talk about what goes on for us, gives other women or men the place where they can go, okay, this goes on for me. Because for me, it's like say that energy of like that fuck me. I probably won't have an orgasm in that, but the whole energy of it is such a turn on. And for me, orgasm is not the right, we did it, ticked, like this is
Yeah.
we
We're
got
done.
there.
Yeah.
It's not the
Sometimes
goal.
I have
Yeah.
such a good time, but I don't actually have an orgasm, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm
It's like
so glad you said that.
Yeah. I think the
Yeah.
longest sex I've ever had lasted for 8 hours, and I didn't have an orgasm, nor did I have penetrative sex, but it was the best sex I ever had, right? So it's like
turning my body on you talking about it, so which I love.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's so many ways to experience sexuality,
Yeah.
you know, with partnership, red tantra, and also with self, and also with
Mhm.
like nature. I'm so turned on by nature. I get
me too.
call myself eco-erotic all the time because I'm just like, I'm gonna have an orgasm breathing at the beach, you know? So but what is an orgasm? You know, it's not necessarily a clitoral peak and drop, you know, it's not always what we know orgasm to be. I think we have to expand our awareness and our consciousness around what sexuality is, what orgasm is, and
What
then
sex is.
yeah, and then what we can have so much more such a different relationship to eroticism, which is like our truest essence. You know, in the Taoist system, the word jing, Jing, means essence, and it's also sexual energy. Jing qi, there's 5 different kinds of qi in Chinese medicine, and jing qi is sexual qi. So sexual essence is sexuality. So when somebody is like I was recently in Turkey, and I was talking to these young, you know, women who are in a totally different culture altogether, where sexuality is super repressed for them, and they're so hungry for it. They're like, can't wait to talk to me about what's going on in their bodies, and help me with this, and how do I do this, and you know, they're so hungry for it. And I was explaining this thing about like, your sexuality is your essence. And I just sort of like took a deep breath and just did my little thing of like, you know, like, can you see, like, when I'm pulling energy up through my body, like, there I am, I'm in my essence. I'm not a Chinese medicine doctor. I'm not somebody who lives in California. You know, I'm not all the labels of who my persona of who I think I am. I'm actually in my true self, like capital S self. And that is probably one of the most valuable relationships that we could attend to in life, is a relationship with essence.
It's also the most attractive. It's the most magnetic. It's what people fall in love with, you know?
Yeah. And that's a good point too. You know, often we'll say like, people fall in love with your essence, but then you get into relationships with somebody's protective patterns, you know, so it's like the more that somebody is coming to a relationship with a good relationship with their own true essence, you know, the more success that relationship is going to have, rather than personality patterns.
I mean, it's so true. Like, I've had a long-term relationship, lived with them, etc., and sex was never a problem. Like, we had a lot of sex, but the relationship side of things started to be like, oh. And so the lover I have now, like, we even had a chat the other day about, like, you know, what would it be like if we lived together, and we both were like, no. Like, I love what we have. I love the fact that the enthusiasm and the excitement, and I don't need to live with someone in this moment. I don't need to live with someone. I enjoy my own space, and I enjoy that, and I enjoy, you know, I enjoy him. I choose him, and I enjoy him, and which I want to keep sort of expanding on that and exploring that. Like, he's coming over this weekend, and we were talking about, look, what else can we explore this weekend? Oh, I need to tell you, actually. We had the funniest time with so on your website, and we'll put this in the show notes, on your website, Sex Reimagined, do you have like a free download of, what is it called? The kissing is
tantric kissing.
Yeah. So, which I learned a lot. Thank you. One thing you talk about, which I'll have you talk about, is the frenulum. And I honestly thought the frenulum only existed on the penis.
No.
So, and then when you spoke about it, so I'll get you guys to talk about it, and then I'll tell you what happened. It was pretty funny.
That's awesome.
Fun. A good story is coming. Okay, Leah, tell us about the frenulum.
So you've got frenulum right where your lip connects to your gums, above your 2 front teeth, and then again where your lip connects to your gums in front of your bottom 2 teeth. And the only other places you've got frenulum in the body is at the clitoris and at the head of the penis. So
Which I
when
didn't know
you,
the clitoris either.
yeah. So when
I
you
love that.
kiss, you can tongue the frenulum as you're making out with someone. It actually creates a signal of arousal to the genitals to where the other parts of frenulum exist. So there are 5 different types of kissing. You have sucking, lipping, nibbling, tonguing, and then there's a breathing where you've got breath. And so when you suck on someone's frenulum, it sends communication signals, hey, baby, turn on. And yeah. And if there's anything else you'd like me to add, I'd be happy to.
No, it's great. But I actually have a question for you. And so anyway, so we read this and watched the video, and I think it was you, Leah, that commented about like when somebody kisses you, like observe how they kiss you, because that's actually how they want to be kissed. That is one of the tools I've used for many, many years. It's like, because that's actually, and also because sometimes over the years you get a kisser and you're like, some cultures, I want to say, are not that great at kissing, and then others are better. So it's like, then, okay, how do I change this? Like, because kissing, I think, is one of the best things in the world. Like, it's such a turn on for me. So we were doing like like the frenulum here and like the sucking, but it was funny because he's like, well, you go first, because if we both do it, I'm like,
right.
It's really like mechanical thing that we just started laughing so much, and it was like, I mean, we just kissed for ages, and we were like trying to work this out, etc. And it ended up being a lot of fun.
That's great.
But it was trying
playful.
to be different. But I actually want to ask you, one of the things that turns me on so much is like kissing or licking in the ear.
There's
Like I can just
nerve endings there.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is that?
The ear is actually, you know how, there's like foot reflexology where you can find all the organ points and spinal column and everything on the sole of the foot. You can find that also on the palm of the hand and on the surface
on the ear.
Yeah, there's like a whole map of the body on the ear. So like this is the spine around here, this curve.
An ear actually looks like a fetus.
Yeah, it looks like a little upside down fetus with the head down here and the feet curled in here. And so so there's just tons of sensitivity, like tons of nerve endings to the ear.
Yeah.
Not only that, but each one of your organ systems in Chinese medicine and Taoist medicine opens to a certain sense organ. And so the kidneys open to the ears, and the kidneys are where sexual energy is stored. So there's a lot of different layers.
Lots of layers.
Why the ear is like so yummy and delicious. And some people can't stand it. They can't have enough capacity to hold the pleasure of it, is my take on it.
It can sometimes get so intense that you're almost like, pull away, come back. Like, and as you're, having copulation and blah, 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 it's just like, oof, like, but it can be incredible. Yeah.
It's an amazing erogenous zone. And I think what people don't think about when they think of kissing is breaking up the roles of the giver, the kissee and the kisser. Because sometimes you want to take turns allowing someone to kiss you, to ravish you, to titillate you, to open you. And you just to receive that, to study that, to feel that, to notice what opens. And when you can break up the roles, then when it's your turn to receive, you can really study how your body opens or closes to different sensations. So that way you can, again, you have information to communicate to your partner around what turns you on versus what turns you off. And then you can also be playful, because back to your point around, people think that the goal of sex is to have an orgasm, and they're completely missing the boat. When we think orgasm is the goal, we start to take sex way too seriously, and we start to judge if we're a success or a failure. And then we start to pathologize that. So now we have a dysfunction or a problem. And we take all the joy, the fun, and the playfulness out of lovemaking, when really lovemaking should be the adult playground. It's where we get to be free and playful, and it's where we find connection. And I think so many women feel so fulfilled by having their partner's undivided attention, where they're in the moment and your bodies are together. Yes, an orgasm would be great, but that's not the most important thing for them to feel loved. And so we have to remember, and here's what I always tell my students is if you can make the goal of sex about experiencing love, either the energy of love or the emotion of love, which are two different things depending on your relationship commitment, then orgasms follow. They come naturally. You don't have to
Mm.
chase them. You don't have to fight for them because you're in presence, right? When you're in presence, attunement starts to shape. You get to let go. You get to you let your nervous system relax. It's very hard for people to reach a climax if they're stressed out and if they're tense. You have to
It's
be
true.
able to relax so that the pleasure can unfurl.
So yeah, because the way you talk about love, the verbiage I would use for that is gratitude. Because I think when you have gratitude for someone and their body, and they've got gratitude for you, there's like no judgment there, and it's like gratitude. Like judgment doesn't really exist with gratitude. So for me, it's like that's the energy that I would be talking to. But I know we're both talking about the same energy.
Yeah.
It's just a different verbiage. And I want to talk about, you just mentioned receiving too. I think I mentioned on the podcast I did with you guys is the lover that I have. He said to me at one stage, he said, "You've taught me how to receive." And at one point I said to him, hey, he was really tired. And I said, "Why don't you lie down and I'll give you," I like looked at all these videos, watched all these videos about how to give like a penis massage. And, the penis massage wasn't just about penis, as you guys would know, so much more than that. But he looked at me and he goes, "But I don't know if I'm going to get hard right now." And I went, "It's not the point." I was like,
Yeah.
"Totally fine." I said, "You can fall asleep if you want." And he looked at me like, "Really?" And I went, "Yeah." I said, "You're really tired." I said, "Just lie down, relax." And I said, "If you want to fall asleep, fall asleep." Do you know that was one of the greatest gifts that I gave him, was just to
No.
fall asleep? And
Love
he
it.
did that with me at one point. Same thing. I was like super tired, and he, was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go. Like, if I go down on you, fall asleep." And I laughed because it was the same line, but the energy of having someone say, "I'm gonna go down on you, and it's okay if you fall asleep." I was like,
Amazing, right?
"Wow, yeah."
It's
I love
such
it.
good permission.
Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
I want to say to that is like when somebody is in that really relaxed, open state, their nervous system is in a state of receptivity. So it's actually a time when you can impart to their overly critical mind that is super down on them in so many ways. So many of us have that, right? All the gremlins in their mind. It's a really nice way to get somebody to open up their mind to once their body is in that relaxed, open, receptive state, even to the point of like, oh, drifting off to sleep. In those moments, you can say something like, "You're such an amazing mother. You're such an incredible partner. You're so, I'm so proud of everything that you've created in your whatever." It gets into the psyche in a different way, and then it translates more easily into change and action in their life.
Yeah, like when you're in a moment of state change, whether that's at the moment of orgasm or a peak level of arousal or a deep relaxed state, like Willow said, a sleepy state where you're passing in, their psyches are so much more open to be influenced in a positive way than if you were just sitting with them at dinner telling them, "God, do you know how powerful you are? Do you know how beautiful you are? Do you know how much you belong in this world? Your gifts are so beautiful and special. I feel lucky to know you." To say those things over dinner as compared to at a peak level of arousal, it gets into someone's nervous system at a much deeper level. So when we have the privilege to get naked with somebody and play like this, people don't even understand what an amazing positive impact we can make on their whole life by understanding how to be conscious in that nakedness, because our clothes aren't just off, our souls are open. Our energy bodies are more available, and that's why it's so vulnerable. That's why we're so afraid of getting hurt. It's because if I get really naked with you, it's not just this, my clothes are off. My soul is naked to you right now. Are you gonna hold it with reverence and with respect and caretake this privilege? And so vulnerability is such a critical part to great sex because you're taking a risk in that nakedness with someone. And vulnerability translates to woundability. We're stripped at that moment. So yeah, it's risky. If I
I
take all these
love
clothes
that
off,
the
are you
way
gonna
you
like
said
me?
that. I love that you said the privilege to get naked with someone. It's so true. Because and getting naked with someone too, there's noises, there's juices, there's everything that
Yeah,
occurs, and being okay with that, and
right.
that level of vulnerability and the more the more intimate you do get, the more things show up that you're like, okay, that just happened, but
Right,
we're
but I
good.
don't know about you too, but don't you find, like, also getting older that I'm a lot less
Oh,
self-conscious than I ever
yes,
was? Like,
yes.
that's a part of that, like, what I wish I could tell my younger self is, "Sister, be free." Like, don't be so
Vagina farts happen,
self-conscious.
depending on exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and I might have more to be self-conscious of now, but it's so
yeah,
liberating to actually go, "Eh,
yeah, yeah,
here I am in all
yeah.
my glory."
Yeah. Well, yeah, and also, like, I mean, for me, it's like the smell of a man's testicles is wonderful. I mean, I don't want him to go out working out and going for a run for a marathon and coming back, but the actual natural smell of a man's testicles is one of my favorite things to smell. It's just like, oh
That's his essence. That's his
yeah,
Yeah, the
chi.
pheromones are
Yeah.
alive and ripe. Yeah.
Yeah, when that scent works for you, it can be intoxicating.
Yeah, it's an
yeah.
aphrodisiac, man. You wanna just inhale that person. I remember I was thinking about this the other night. I was remembering the first guy I ever fell in love with, and I was like, the thing that I always remember that has bookmarked itself, stamped itself on my soul was the first time I met him, and he brought me into this huge bear hug, and he brought his nose to like the back of my ear, and he inhaled. And I felt like he inhaled me and our souls united in that moment. And I was like, yeah, when someone just takes you in, and it really
Yeah.
reminded me of like how powerful the five senses are. And when we can remember to engage our senses in sex, it elevates it to the next level. And I think
Yeah.
it's one of those things that a lot of people do unconsciously when they think about smells, like the smells that work for them versus the smells that don't work for them, how they have a yes for someone if they smell right.
Hmm.
Um, that we could be more conscientious in how we curate our sexual
Hmm.
experiences by making sure that our senses are opened and that we are evoking a really yummy and positive response. It's like giving someone a delicious libation that they can. It's actually in the kissing training is we talk about like the use of libation where you put something really yummy and maybe effervescent and bubbly into your mouth, and then you can pass that delicious fluid back and forth to your partner's mouth. There's so many cool things to do that the vanilla world doesn't think of.
There is so many cool things to do. Well, here's the thing though, it's like how many people grew up with that vanilla world, and taking that step outside of that is so much more available now than it was years ago too.
Yeah.
Like I look at my 22-year-old niece and I adore her and her friends, etc., and the conversations that we have. But I didn't have those conversations when I was 22. It's like they may have been available, but they weren't where I was.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
It's a
anything, I
whole
mean,
different sexual revolution at
yeah,
this
Well, we
time.
have information, we have access to information in a place we've never had
And a
in
lot
the
more
history of
people talk
humanity.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
And when
well,
I
really
say
and being,
vanilla, like, I think it's fair to also say that I love vanilla ice cream. Right now, I got vanilla ice cream in my freezer, and I've been topping it with cranberry sauce. Like it's stay vanilla, people, but maybe bring out the sprinkles every once in a while. Get a little bit of caramel sauce going. Like add some toppings. Find out there are toppings you haven't even tried yet. Like I never even thought of cranberries, but I did this year, and it's a whole new
I love it.
treat.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, I mean, missionary position is one of my favorite positions.
Hmm.
And then people
yeah.
think they just put it in this vanilla thing, and I'm like, no, it's actually one of my favorite positions. So
Yeah, back to the basics, it's
Yeah.
like those simple things. It's not what you're doing, it's how
yes,
you're being,
Ding ding.
how you're showing up. Like I think I spent, I don't know, 10 minutes like painting somebody's hand with my nipple the other day. And it was just, it was total bliss for both of us. There was like, why would we go anywhere else? Like, we're just.
I love that.
Well,
I love that. Brilliant.
yeah. I mean, it's also interesting if we go back to the top of our conversation when we were talking about female sexuality and how women feel about themselves as a sexual person, what they know or they don't know about what they like as a sexual person, how many women are hard on themselves because reaching a climax isn't easy. And so we either rush it along or we avoid it instead of having those open conversations about, I'd like for it to be easier for me.
Yeah.
I'd like it to be less stressful. And it kind of comes, less pressure, less obligation, that sex is for me, it's not just for you. And then looking for what you need to discover in order to have a richer sex life. It's not your partner's responsibility to hand that to you. It's everyone's personal responsibility to take themselves on a journey, on an adventure of understanding how they get turned on. And when you take that as like a personal quest, you are so powerful because you now know that your pleasure is not anyone else's responsibility but your own. And then you discover, I can have an orgasm with anyone I want. I can have an orgasm all by myself. No one is needed, I have access to how this beautiful system unfolds. And you're not born knowing that. You're not expected to be born knowing that. People who discover that by accident are rare unicorns. Most of us have to do a little bit of research. And like we've been saying, this is the first time we've had this much access to information.
Yeah.
I really believe that in the next 100 years, one of the things that is going to be so amazing is the evolution of female sexuality.
Hallelujah.
I like your
Praise
prediction,
God.
and I hope it comes true. Yes.
Yeah. But I just
know-
want to encourage the women listening, like, you got to take that upon yourself. It's no one's job to hand it to you.
I love that you said that. Yeah. It's your responsibility. The first thing I remember about my sexual, choices or whatever, I was on the family couch and I was playing with myself and I was masturbating, but I didn't really know about masturbation. No one had spoken about it or anything like that. It just felt good. So I was doing that, right? And then my mother walked in and she was horrified and just went, oh my God, what the hell are you doing? And I looked at her and I went, because I didn't know. I went, I don't know. And because I didn't. And then she was like, get to your room. And then I realized on my own, I went, oh, I don't think I meant to do that on the family couch, but it felt really good. I'm going to start doing that in my room, but it was such a little thing. And I'll never forget it because I just remember thinking, this feels so good, but apparently I'm not meant to do it on the family couch.
Yeah.
Well, people think that it's not until you're a teenager that your genitals wake up, but that is not true. Our little nerve endings are intact from the moment our genitals start to develop, they feel good. So it's sort of interesting. I think parents get scared. Some of it is from their own internalized shame about their own sexuality, or it could be, well, if you just, touch yourself like that anywhere we are, then we don't know what perpetrators are around, right? We don't know, is there a worker in the house or something, a stranger that might be repairing something? And so I get why parents get nervous, but the impact of the shame, that if they're not being very mindful on that little nervous system, it can really shape how someone internalizes what feels good on their own body. And I'm so glad that you didn't let that shut you down. You just decided, well, I guess I know where I get to play with this. And it's not a family couch.
Yeah. Well, if I listen to my mother talk about, she used to talk about penises in the most horrible way.
Oh, really?
And yeah. And I remember thinking, oh, my dad hasn't had, much joy in his sex life. So she never had any conversation with me, never did anything like that. So Leah, I am grateful that I didn't shut it down on myself. I went, this is fun, this is pleasurable, let's play, you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And yeah, definitely over the years it's changed a lot. And as you said, as I get older, it's like it's
Mhm.
it's a whole other exploration, and it just
Mhm.
like gets better and better and better.
Simone, I'm curious for you. You're through menopause at this point, right? Early, yeah. Earlier we were talking about we were just mentioning, like, you know, different days. You want different things on different days, different pressures on different days. You know, I'm still in my fertility years, so having a normal cycle. And so that for me, I'm always tracking that, right? And so I'm really aware and conscious, like, well, this time of my menstrual cycle, of my monthly moon cycle, I'm going to want to have more foreplay, longer diffuse energy before you go in for the goods, you know. And when there's other times in my cycle where I am going to just be like, just fuck me now, like give it to me hard, fast, and now, you know. And so I'm just curious what you've noticed shift in your own body and in that realm.
I think one of the first things I got a bit paranoid about, not for long because my lover was so magical about it, was the fact that you don't have that natural lubrication so quickly.
Mm.
You don't get as wet easily. And yet when I went to, this is happening, okay, we need more lubricant or more oil or something like this, I noticed as soon as we slowed something down, that changed. And he's like, it's not true that this is happening. You're just buying into that this is happening. And I've noticed that it has changed a lot. So I think you really got to, again, like what we've been reiterating, is take notice of what actually works for your body and what your body is asking for. Because it's, if anything, I think the freedom I have with my body and sex now, and then over menopause, it's like it's just a different playground. It's like, but it's more, it's greater, and I haven't noticed anything less. That's the only thing that I started to get really like, oh my God, you know, because you get wet in an instant, you know, before, and then now, oh, I'm not. So what do we have to use or what do we have to do? But it has changed. So is what I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. All of it's really interesting. So you guys have because this is going to come out early February. You have a course, I think it's starting on the 11th of February. Can you?
Yeah, we've got a really cool live summit, live online summit. So you can tune in from anywhere in the world. And we have 16 experts that we are going to be featuring who have so much to share, like so much to talk about as far as what is possible within sexuality. We've got someone sharing about striptease. We've got someone sharing about, I can't think of all the things.
Pelvic floor health, talking about you know, what men can do to turn on a woman. Like we got another talk on what men are doing wrong that's stopping women from getting turned on.
We got someone talking about lengthening the you know, ejaculatory choice for a man, ejaculatory control. So all of these
eye gazing, all sorts of great topics.
Yeah, they're going to be featured live, and we would love to have anyone from your audience who wants to participate. It's a free event. It's February 11th and 12th, and we'll put the link here in your show notes so that people can register. And I would also live, but there's going to be a replay period too.
Yeah,
so
we'll have a free replay period. It's totally binge worthy. So if, you know, this will all be live Pacific time, California time, but if you can't make it, if that's in the middle of the night, we've got a free replay for you so that you can binge it when you can.
Okay.
And then what's really cool, all of the sexperts that are on the panel, they're all teaching a half-hour segment. So you're going to be getting their class, but then they're going to give you a free gift. So you're going to get a link to some other great tool or practice that they have. So there's lots of goodies inside the program.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you. I just want to say thank you for doing stuff like that. Like, I'll sign up for sure. I'm not so sure if I'll be able to be on live, but I will sign up for sure, because I know my discovery has been phenomenal and I would like to discover more. And I notice every time I talk about something that I would have hidden before, it opens a door for somebody else too. And I would, as you know, I love your prediction, Leah, of like the next 100 years, that there's a different energy and a different choice that we have sexually. I would like that too. And it's like, and again, I've also had conversations with people, if you don't want to have sex, that's okay too. Like sex isn't right and sex is not wrong. It's a choice, and it should be a choice, and enjoy the choice.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, because we actually see that there's 5 stages of sexuality that a person can go through, and they're not linear. You could go through all 5 stages in one day. You could be in one stage for 25 years or longer. And one of those stages is a resting stage, where being plugged into sex is not the priority for that season. You've got something else that needs all of your attention. And so there should be no shame in choosing not to be sexual.
Yes, I totally agree. Totally agree. So Leah and Willow, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for who you be in the world. And is there anything else that you would like to leave the listeners with as you say goodbye?
Well,
Go get your kissing.
Yeah, I was going to say the same exact thing. Come and get your free tantric kissing. I can give you the URL for that. It's sexraymagic.com/free-tantric-kissing-training. And it can be yours, and it's our gift to you.
Yeah, and it honestly, it was lots of fun, and like I said, I love kissing, and I love that we played with it, and I learned information, and I love gaining more information all the time. So thank you so much for you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here, and guys, if you like this, please share it, sign up for their free summit, and I'll see you next time. Thanks everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.